YouTube is always so freaking slow with receiving data. It's kind of insane. Um, it seems to be live actually. It seems to be live. So there we are. I'm starting a little bit early because frankly I didn't have that much else to do for the next like 8 minutes. It's been a week and a bit, I think, since the last time we worked on this project, because my internet's been all kinds of messed up, and I've actually been thinking a little bit in that time. Because the last time when we left off, we figured out that there's a little bit going wrong here with, like, we have our saving and loading now, right? I don't remember what the key points for it are, so let me real quick check that. We've got the press F to save and then press G to load. So I can now press G, open the inventory. I've got something in that inventory, but more importantly, like this chest has a bunch of stuff in it, which it doesn't by default. If I just go in here, it's both of them are empty. We can do all that now, but there is a definite issue with the card quantities. So if we, that's not what I wanted to look at. If we look in here, we've got like this card has like amount 3 in it, right? I think Zoom is not open yet. Let's actually open that real quick. We've got amount 3 in here, which means that there's 3 of this card and rarity combination. If I click on it once, it transports all 3 over here, and the other way around. So if I click on it again, it's going to transport all 3 back over there, which is not ideal. It just transfers the entire stack back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that would be something that we can look into fixing right here now today. Obviously, we could, but there is a bigger issue here. And that is with the thing that we were trying to implement to begin with, which is this display case. This is just a placeholder image for the time being. And this is where we come to an issue, because these display cases only are allowed to have stacks of 1 in them. And if the entire inventory system is based on stacking cards, we have to do like a fair bit extra coding to make this right here work. And frankly, I just kind of don't feel like doing that, because it's supposed to be a fun little side project. It started, for God's sake, as me trying out Godot. And then I figured, you know what, let's move over back to Unreal and just still make this game. It's been like 2 months. I want to get back to my actual game development project, like the long-term one that I'm working on, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done there as well. So, instead what we're going to do is every single card is just going to be its own inventory slot, meaning that there's no stacking going on, there's nothing of the sort going to be happening, there's just gonna be duplicates in your inventory. That makes everything so much easier and so much more straightforward to deal with. So that is what we're going to be doing here today. Let's open up the code to look into what that needs as far as changes go. So a card slot has an asset, a rarity, and a card count. The card count we actually can just entirely remove. We don't need that anymore, which is going to cause some issues somewhere down the line, because we're using the card count in some of our functions, right? Like right here. We can just remove that, but this is the adding of a card to the inventory. So here it first checks whether or not that card already like exists in the inventory, which means a card of that asset and rarity combination. And if it does, it finds that and then it added it to the amount of cards in that stack. Sorry, my brain is just catching up real quick. We don't really need to do that anymore, is the thing. What we can just do now is we can just remove all this and we can just add the... Can you just stop making noise, you fucking bird? We can just add to the array, and that's kind of everything there is to it, right? So that makes this a lot easier. And then we have the remove card as well, which again, that's actually going to be a little bit more difficult to work with, I just realized. Because now we're just looking through an array to find the first matching thing. If we have multiples, like let me draw this out because I like drawing things out, right? So if we have an array, that's not what I wanted to do. If we have an array, that's not what I wanted to do. If we have an array, right, and we have a bunch of cards in this array, if we remove by looking for the first matching thing, let's say that this one and this one are the same card. They're just exact duplicates of each other. If we click on this one and we look through the entire array to find the matching card, it's actually going to be removing this one, right? Which is going to feel really weird and counterintuitive for anybody using the actual inventory. So I don't think that that's a good idea. Alternatively, what we could do is we could remove by like index. This is like 0, 1, 2, 3. That's a really bad 3. You get the point. If we remove by index, we can do that. But then the question is, like, would we ever need to remove card by asset and rarity combination? By card slot. That is what we call that. We call that a card slot. Would we ever need to remove a card by slot? Because I think anytime we remove a card, it's because we click on it to go to another inventory, which I think that slot can then probably pass through the index of itself in the array. So we can probably remove card by index always. I think that's not actually that big of a deal. Okay, I've just decided that I think that reworking my code for this is actually going to be more work than I thought. Working through all this. So we're going to just kind of keep this in place. And I'm going to go into blueprints to see if maybe there is a issue here that I can more easily resolve. I didn't really go into today's plan. Yeah, so what we're doing here is we're not using the add and remove functions. We're just doing the entire slot. So that makes sense. So what we can do instead is we can try to add card instead. And then the card to add would be this. And then we can try to, in the player inventory, we can remove card. And then the card to remove also would be this one, I think. And then that moves into there. So I think this is the issue. I think once we have this in place, the inventory should work properly. Then we still have the issue with the display case where we need to code something that only ever allows one card to be in there. But that's actually not that complicated now that I think about it. So we can just like add and remove cards to the inventory components. Yeah, no, the more I think about this, the more it makes sense to keep the code as we have it. It's going to prevent me from wasting like a bunch of time rewriting code. And it is just a little cleaner and more neat looking for the player as well. So I think now when we add and remove cards from this chest over here, they should go one by one. That's not the chest that I wanted to check. Hold on. It's this one, right? Yeah. So now they should go... What? They move to here, but then also get added to the same slot that they are supposed to be getting removed from. That's because both of them are set to adding card. That makes sense. Which one? So this one should be remove card. I think once we do that, we should be good to go. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. I guess. Let's try again. So that's 1, Okay, so not quite there yet. But it's at least not... It's at least not adding it anymore. And it's adding 2 every single time. So... It's still not exactly what I wanted to do. I wonder why that is. Just to check, this thing does use... I mean, yes, because we changed code about that specific widget. So yeah, what I was wondering is this asset does use the chest inventory widget, right? That's the thing that we were working in. So yeah. So when we click that, it sends through the card slot, which runs the add card function. I think it should only... Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so it adds the card count. I think it should just... increase the card count by 1. And then... is there any reason... Should I... Okay, so what I'm thinking is, should I also do the, like, card removal from the initial... No, because this is a copy anyway, so it's not even putting through a reference. Which actually is also the problem of what is happening here, is it's changing a copy, not a reference. So let's find the thing for this. So now it should be using a reference, which means that this will now work, I think. Yes. Let's see. Well, actually, does it? Because we have card to remove, but we're never actually... So yeah, that shouldn't actually matter. Why do you spice up development cycle with side projects, small bits like this one? Man, I wish it was a small project. It was supposed to be. It's mostly because I have a terrible habit of not focusing very much. And I personally am the kind of guy who doesn't finish his sentences when he's trying to explain something, as you might have picked up on in the live streams. And that kind of translates to the development cycle as a whole. I really like jumping around a lot, and that's kind of why I like being a solo developer. The downside of which, of course, being I can't possibly be actually very good at everything involved. So some of the parts of the game are kind of dodgy. But it helps me like stay motivated and stay focused. And it also creates... I'm planning at some point to make a video specifically about it because I think it's interesting. But it also helps create a little bit of distance from the big project. Like if you're in a project for 4, 5, 6 months at a time, a year at a time, you kind of lose context and you kind of lose like a more objective view. And as a video editor, specifically doing color correction is where I learned this initially. But I think that this piece of advice will kind of work with whatever creative endeavor you're doing. When you're creating something, 99 times out of 100, it's good to take a step back for an hour or for a week or for a month and then come back, because it'll help you have a fresher look and actually see the issues with what you're making. The general advice among like color correction in video production or film production is never export something at the end of the day. Always export at the start of a day. Because at the end of the day, you've just spent like 8 hours looking at a picture and its colors, and you have no context for what it should look like anymore. A friend of mine was correcting a film that he was working on with a colorist, And they had this issue where it was supposed to be a certain like brownish orange tone throughout the entire film. And they did the entire thing, and then they went back to the start of the film, and the effect that they were going for was much less pronounced at the start than it was at the end. Because you get used to these color changes, and then the next shot you do it a little bit more extreme. And then like an hour more working into it, you do it even more a little extreme. And by the end of it, you have something entirely different than what the initial start was. Now that can mean that the final few shots that you're looking at are too extreme, or maybe that's actually what you want to look at and then you need to go back and adjust the beginning. The point being is that when you're working on something and you're like so enveloped in it, you don't have a good reference point of what is good and what isn't good anymore. Taking some steps away from it, either by just stopping your work, going home for the day and just like not thinking and not looking at it anymore, or in my case, stepping away and going to do something entirely different, whether that be within the same project or doing a different project altogether. Really helps you with that like more objective, more fresh view when you come back, which in this case has resulted in me realizing that I am making too much of a Souls-like game for my main project, and I don't think that I should be. But there's an entire video that I wrote about that, which should be going up in about a week or two, which goes a little bit more deeply into that. So it's a very long answer. But that's kind of the long and short of it. Anyway, so why doesn't this function work? Because we have 40 slots in all the cards. We check if the slot is equal to the cards to remove. So yeah, that actually kind of works. If that card slot has more than one card in it, increase. So why doesn't this function work? That function should work. That is a fantastic question. Like that will return false, right? In this case, like in-story component just removed. That's the only reason that I can think of. And I also just like messed up something else a little bit, but we'll look into that in a moment because I didn't build yet. But this will now print false. It printed true! What? So it does get to this. Which means it has to do either of these. What the hell? So which one is it doing? Is it... It's definitely not removing the card, right? Because that's directly addressing the array. Oh. No. No. I was thinking this is maybe a copy, but that's definitely not the case either. Okay, let's just build this and we'll get back into what might be wrong with this remove function, because something isn't quite right about this. Yeah, I'm not dropping any frames, so if there's any choppiness... Oh my god, there's a building issue again, because of course there is, there always is. Oh no, I just tried to use live coding instead of rebuilding. Yeah, it's not something about a make file. I don't really like... Whenever there is an issue with Rider, it always... Or with building in Rider, it always refers you to like the make file. Which isn't very helpful, because that's not something that I'm directly like interfacing with at all. So I don't know. It seems like Rider is a little bit less specific with his errors than VS Code is, which is not great. There's a lot of things that I do like about Rider, don't get me wrong. But that is definitely not one of the things that I'm really loving. Okay, so we've got 3 of this card. It moves over all 3. And it doesn't delete them from... Okay, no, so now it actually just adds them. Oh no, that actually does make sense. Okay, now that does make sense. Hold on. Because when we try to... Yeah, when it doesn't exist yet, we just add the entire slot. So what we should be doing is we should be making a F card slots. Slot to add. And we set slot to add dot card assets equal to our card to add dot card assets. We set slot to add dot card rarity equal to our card to add dot card rarity, and then we set slot to add dots. Could we just set this in a constructor? Yeah, we could. But here we are. And then we add the slot to add instead. So now it should just only add 1 whenever it adds a card, which still doesn't really tell us anything about why it isn't removing the cards. So that's still a little weird. We provide a card to remove. I don't think I have Copilot enabled anymore. Log. Yeah, that's the one thing I really like about Copilot is all the syntax that it remembers for me. But I think I can just like ulog, right? I don't like that it doesn't. Oh. I'm not even gonna bother. I guess I can put a break in here just to check if it even gets to that bit of code. Yeah, the entire like string syntax for the ulog is, and this is not necessarily Unreal's fault. This is just a C++ thing. I'm pretty sure is so needlessly like overcomplicated, which I get. Like part of the reason like C++ is liked is because you are very much responsible for like very like minute differences in your data and what data should actually do and what it should actually mean. Like that gives you a lot of power, but also a lot of responsibility. Like with great power comes great responsibility. Whereas something like Python, if you just like say, hey, concatenate this integer to a string, it just does it for you, which is also really nice. Okay, so let's see. If I want to go over here now, and well, at least that works. It's adding them one by one. It's still not... Is it just not redrawing that inventory? Now it redraws both inventories, so what the actual fuck is the issue? Like, how is it possible? Because it is printing true every single time, which means that this function, remove card, is returning a value of true. It only returns a value of true if this if statement runs. Meaning that either this or this line of code must run for this to be true. But it sure as hell isn't removing or subtracting from the cards. Which means that it might be... I don't even know why I'm looping over this, to be honest with you. Because I think we can also... Okay, so let's do this slightly differently. Let's put this in an if statement. If... cards. Hello? The hell? If cards dot contains... So if card contains the card to remove, then we int I we try to find cards card to remove, and then we put in this instead. Which is okay, slightly different. We'll look into that in a moment. So we don't remove slot, we remove our cards I is what we call this instead. So now we're directly addressing the array. I think that might be what we need to do. Let's give it a shot. It's this fucking makefile shit again. I don't know why F5... Like, F5 is just a shortcut to... Oh, it's Control F5. Okay, we'll do Control F5 going forward. Fine with me. So I'm kind of glad that we decided to go with it in this direction. So now... Well! I fucking did something! Assertion failed. Attempting to use a container element which already comes from the container being modified. So can you give me like the line of code? So this is remove card. Remove. Oh, I can see how that is an issue. Yeah, I can see how that is an issue. I suppose if we do that, we can remove by... this. So yeah, what it is, I'm trying to like get a card from the array and then use that to remove a card from that array, and apparently it doesn't like that, which is actually just kind of fair. But I think if I just pass in this card to remove struct, that should still work. Also, my chat overlay is not turned on. There we go. I turned that off because I was doing some screen recordings for a video. And it keeps the really annoying little like first chat message that Restream puts in, which is not very fun. Okay, let's see if this first and foremost stops crashing. Okay, it stops crashing. It moves from one inventory to the other. We fixed it. We can move on one at a time now. We fucking fixed it. Look at that. Okay, that is perfect. Cool. So now the one thing that I'm worried about is if I go into this container is only allowed to have stacks of 1, right? So if I try to put this in, well, that entire container needs to have its code revised anyway. Hold on, because there's a lot of stuff probably wrong with that blueprint code as well. So let's do display case, graph. Yeah, there's a mess. That's a mess. That's not good. Okay, so we have the card. When that is clicked, we add the card to the inventory, and we set our display. Hold on, no, that's not how that should work, right? Because this is the WBP card. So when we click that, we add that card to... Oh yeah, the inventory. No, I am right. We set the card in here to being empty, which we should put in some code for as well to make that work. We redraw the player's inventory, and then we set the card slot on WPP card. I'm going to kill these birds at some point. To that as well, and then we redraw the card. Okay, so that makes a certain amount of sense. We check in display case has card. We just check whether or not the card slot asset is not a null pointer. That makes sense, right? I think that does. If it has a card, we swap them. If it doesn't have a card, we just directly set it and remove it from the inventory. Now we redraw both of them as well. But then we need to check... Okay, so hold on. We also need to check whether or not the card we're trying to add... Hold on, let me think. If the card slot of the card that we're trying to add matches the card that we're trying to put into it, we should do nothing. That's pretty much all there is to it. Yeah, so if it already has a card, we need to do another check. And I need to clean up this blueprint at some point, because again, this is a fucking mess. And we're going to be checking the display case card slot, which I already have a reference to here. And we want to check whether that is equal. We can just break that. We'll just check the card asset. That's fine. Apparently it doesn't like comparing those, maybe because some serialization stuff. I don't really care. We check whether or not the thing that we are adding here, card slot, is equal to I don't know why it's not allowing me to do equals there. No matching equal function in card slot structure. Isn't there? Where did I put that code? Sweet, we're back to the card phase. I know, right? The card game is back in business. Okay, so we have the card slots. This is all save data. It's in a card asset. I think we have that struct, right? Bool operator. Does that need to be marked as a U function for that to work? That would be fucking wild. What is the issue? Okay, I'm gonna Google this real quick. Unreal C++ struct bool operator blueprints. That's very custom struct equal operator struct comparison blueprint. Maybe we can figure it out. I feel like I should just ask ChatGPT, to be honest. That's probably quicker. I don't know if it's going to give me a good answer, but it's at least a better first step. And maybe there's also something to, like, let's save this. Maybe there's something to the idea of, hey, maybe we should... hold on, actually. Invalid keyword U function may only appear in class interfaces. Yeah, so that makes sense. How can I make the equal operator from this ustruct usable in blueprints? And then just copy my entire class into it. Ooh! It does a thing. Let's see. It says to just make a function. To make the equal operator from card slot struct usable, you need to expose it to Unreal's reflection system. This can be achieved by making a blueprint callable function in uObject class. It uses the equals under the hood. So yeah, you can't directly do it, it seems, but it is also not that big a deal because in the... Ooh, but how do we do that, I suppose? Because we can't put that in the struct, because the struct can't take functions. That's the idea of a struct. It's just, like, it's not a class. So I don't have a, like, convenient... I can make a blueprint helper function, but at that point, like, we're only doing this in one place. So do we really need to, like, make a helper function for that? I don't think so. If we end up needing this functionality in multiple places, we can, like, make a function for this. Is there no way to make this just work with the struct itself? Because there should be, right? Because you can you can compare structs aside from this, right? I don't think I can make a... Like, let's try to make a U function here. U function... Blueprint callable. I don't think this will work, but let's fucking static bool... Compare. Yeah, you see, the structs don't take functions, so no. ChatGPT is just being an idiot. Yeah, so long story short, that ain't gonna do the thing. So what we need to do is we just need to make this work in here, which as of this wasn't messy enough. First we check whether or not the card asset is the same, and then we do it and boolean, and we also check whether or not the card rarity is the same. What the fuck do you mean? My dude. Fucking just make literal byte. I'm sure. Fine. I don't care. At that point, we do want to make both of them bytes just to be sure. Okay, so now we have this bool here, which checks whether or not the card existing in there is the same as the card that we're trying to add. If it is, just don't do anything. If it isn't, we swap them. Which now we need to get into, like, how do we set up an empty, just like take 2 of these cards. Actually, let's take a couple cards of different types. And now we need to start figuring out how we want to deal with like this being empty. But we'll look into that in a moment. So it does say amount 2, which is not what I want. But that is because... Yes. Okay, so... This doesn't seem to do anything, so that's good. These swap them all around, but then when we change this card, it does amount 2. Does add the card back in nicely, though. So now the question is, does it just take the... It probably just takes the amount of... Okay, so we have one that has 4 cards here. Let's try that one. So yeah, it just takes the amount as well from the card slot. That shouldn't be that big a deal to change. And that is because we're setting the display case to the card that we're clicking on. So we should be instead display case. What even is this? Get inventory, like actually what even is this? This should have an inventory component, right? It doesn't. It doesn't have an inventory component because it only has 1 card slot. Okay, so we are going to just give it an inventory component after all. Instead of this card slot, which is going to break some stuff, but let's give it... Hold on. Let's give it a constructor real quick. This was like Alt F11, Alt F12, Control plus, Control generate definition. There we go. Okay. Now we make a U property, blueprint, read write, read only. I don't care. Read write. Edit defaults only, which will be a U inventory component for declaration. I do really like that feature. My writer trial is ending in 4 days, and I'm going to have to decide whether or not I want to pay $15 a month for this, and I'm not entirely sure yet. There's all the things that is very nice to have. But I don't know if they're nice enough to have for the price. But we'll get to that at some point, I'm sure. Equals create default subobject of type U inventory components. Oh, that's kind of nice, actually. Okay, so I just said I don't know if this is nice enough to be paying for. When you're in a header file, it seems to ask whether or not you want to include or forward declare. But since we're in a CPP file here, it just assumes that you want to include it. Because why? Like, of course, you're in a CPP file. You're going to need to have the actual include here. That's fair. Inventory. Okay, so now this thing has an actual inventory instead of just a card slot, which makes it easier to add and remove cards from it. Technically, it also means that something could go wrong. We could add like a card into the second slot. I don't care, because we're never going to have that issue, because I am the bestest ever programmer in the world. Right? You can write bad code as long as you don't use the code badly. That's my philosophy in life. That's a little piece of wisdom just for free. You can have that. You can write bad code if you don't use it badly. Very much I do as I say, not as I do kind of situation here. Okay, so this is going to break a lot of things. If I try to compile this, it didn't break anything. That's bad. Because this sure as hell isn't supposed to have just the card slots anymore. Oh, no, it still does. So we can just remove that and rebuild again. That's... okay. That's gonna have a syntax error because this no longer exists. I guess we can just take the inventory component dot cards. It's always just going to be index 0 that we're checking here. I'm thinking maybe the inventory component itself could have a function on it, whether or not it has a certain type of card in it. But would I use that in any other context than this? Because if I'm just like making a function on the inventory component that this function links through to and never used anywhere else, it might as well just exist on here. So let's just do it like this for now, and we can always move some code around if we need to. I'm going to make an intermediate or advanced level gameplay ability system course. I am planning on doing something of the sort, as in, I don't think in the same style as the normal gameplay ability system course that I did, because the normal just introductory course that I did is mostly just this is how the system works, this is some of the things you can do with it without much context, just information dump, information dump, information dump. I think just doing that same thing, but on like a deeper level, isn't necessarily all that valuable for a lot of people. So what I think I'm going to do instead for that is I've been thinking about wanting to make... I made a community post about this. I'm not going to be mysterious about it. I've been thinking about wanting to make like a Pokemon-like game series where I make a Pokemon clone in Unreal Engine. The basis of one, because making a full game would just like not be that good to highlight, right? It would be doing the same thing 100,000 times over. And after having seen it once, like the tutorial, the information or the educational value of which, it just kind of tanks. So I'd still be bare bones. It wouldn't be a completed game, but like building up the majority of the mechanics for it using gameplay ability systems. So that would be more of a course that is aimed toward, hey, this is how you can use gameplay ability in an actual implementation rather than just as an information dump. And you could classify that as like a more intermediate course because we're going to touch on more things than just gameplay ability. The same way that my inventory course, which I'm going to make a follow-up that is actually more intermediate, I'm probably also going to use for that. So instead of just saying, hey, we can make this one thing in a vacuum, I'm going to take those things and put them into some actual like more like real world context, as in we're actually going to be using them to make something. Not to finish making that thing, because again, making a Pokemon like clone game would take hundreds or thousands of hours to do and wouldn't make for a good tutorial series. So we're going to like build up the like basis foundation of it and then not actually make the full game. But I still think that that gives a little bit more real world context than just information dumping. I ended up implementing a simpler object-driven system for my own. Is that absolutely a bad idea? I don't know if that's a bad idea, but I also think that it is... it kind of depends, which is always the answer when it comes to code, right? It depends. But it kind of depends. In general, what I think is if you make gameplay abilities for your game, it's real easy to like build up a library of more or less gameplay ready abilities that work in other games as well, right? If you have an ability that is just play animation and wait for gameplay event that happens when like a damage box overlaps, that is the basis of effectively 90% of attack animations in any game, or attack abilities in any game. And that's a very basic example. But you can very easily port that over because you don't have to rely on your own code for that. You just have to rely on the fact that gameplay ability exists in both projects, so it's easy to port over and reuse code in that regard. As well as the fact that, like, I personally think that reinventing the wheel while being very educational, it will help you learn a lot, and in that regard it is way more valuable than just using pre-existing code. If you're talking about like strictly from a production standpoint, there's no real point in it, because frankly, like unless you are a very good programmer to begin with, the stuff you're going to make most likely isn't going to be as like substantial. Somebody's fucking dying out there. Isn't going to be like as substantially robust as something that like the developers at Epic made, and you're going to have spent a lot of time making it. And again, the chances of you being able to reuse parts of those systems in future projects are relatively slimmer compared to using something pre-existing like gameplay abilities. So I don't want to say it's necessarily bad, but I personally would, for like actual production purposes, probably maybe not do it. I would probably try to extend what is there with gameplay abilities rather than starting from scratch. Like, that's the entire reason we use an engine, right? It's because a lot of tools have already been made, so you might as well use them. But that cutoff is somewhere else for everyone and every single project. Like, there's definitely reasons that you're like, I don't know, this doesn't really fit what I'm trying to make, so I make my own system instead. And sometimes you're like, actually this entire engine doesn't really fit what I'm trying to make, so I'm going to use a different engine. Or I'm insane and I'm going to make my own engine, which there's very little reason to make your own engine, but it's a scale. It's not a binary thing. Seems a bit tedious for my project. I think that is probably a matter of unfamiliarity, to be honest with you. Because once you are familiar with it, I can almost guarantee that it is not that much more tedious than your own system. The way that it handles like the attributes, them not just being floats and you needing to like change them through the use of gameplay effects, is a little bit of a roundabout way if you just want to apply some damage. But the wonderful thing about it is that it compartmentalizes your code very much. So what you avoid is just having a bunch of code on a character which you have to run. There's like these separate bits of the system that all interact with each other to make your code run. meaning that you're going to need to have much more, like, better organization to keep track of all that. Keeping track of, like, all your different gameplay effects is potentially more difficult and more dangerous to do than it is to just have a list of functions on, like, a parent class that deals with all that shit instead. So there's a little bit of, like, personal preference and organizational preference as well. And I can definitely see that some things are a little bit roundabout. But the fact that they're all separate classes, and both for the abilities and for the gameplay effects, and then we've got the gameplay cues and stuff like that, but I don't even want to talk about that, means that they are more reusable and more easily reusable. Unless you're, of course, then hard referencing other things in your ability itself, which sometimes I do, in fact do, but you probably should try to avoid that, because that is what makes the gameplay abilities more reusable, is the fact that like that should be the goal, is to make a gameplay ability that is as generic as possible so you can actually implement it in different characters. Which you can replicate, but at that point you're reconstructing gameplay ability system yourself, at which point maybe, I don't know, there is an argument to be made that making something yourself, you will understand it a lot better than just using something pre-made. And that is definitely an argument that I am partial to. Like, I agree with that. For educational purposes, it is definitely much stronger. Oh, but now that we're doing this, we can actually do the compare in the inventory component as well. Hold on. I am so off the rails today. So that's kind of the thing, right? Are you trying to make a game, or are you trying to learn? The answer should probably be a little bit of both. If you're making the game to learn, making your own stuff is 1,000 times more valuable and a good use of your time. If you're just trying to get something done, it's probably not the most productive use of your time to remake something that already exists. Now that I've done all that, let's go back into the inventory component and make a U function to compare cards. So U function, blueprint, callable, bool, compare cards, F card slots, card A, and F card slots, card B. I think it was there. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do at all. That's again not what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. And then we just return card A equal card B. Yeah, let's fix this inventory. that's what I'm trying to do today. Which so far we're actually making good progress on. I have not started recording it. I haven't done anything, to be fair. Which that's probably saving like 10 gigs. I forgot to start recording. Again, it's not that big a deal. So yeah, now that we're doing it this way, we might as well just use the inventory component with a function like that. So let's rebuild. Just to cut down a little bit on the mess of the blueprint that we have. And then I'll probably need to close my window at some point because it's raining, I think. But it's also like been quite hot, and it's gonna be even hotter next week. So fair warning to everybody watching this. Next week when we're going to be streaming again, hopefully, there will be an AC running in the background. And we're just going to kind of have to deal with that, I'm afraid. Okay. We want to compare cards, right? So once all that is done, we want to compare cards, which could be a blueprint pure function, but hey, do I care? Not really. Yeah, we only need to compare these cards this one time, so it's fine. We have this card slot, which will be card A, and then let's see, where's the other one? Yeah, okay, so this is get cards, and then we get a copy, that's fine, of index 0 in this case. We check whether or not index 0 is the same, and that replaces literally all of this shit. So that's really good. Now, card slots. So if has card is false, we now want to add a card. So we use the add card function on the inventory components. And we remove that card from the player's inventory, so that's good. Fantastic, as a matter of fact. Let's just copy this over real quick. We just actually we copy all this over. That's a lot quicker than retyping everything. It's just the way we're gonna do this. And then we set the card slots. Okay. Maybe we just want to have a clear inventory function as well. Because at this point, like, we have this inventory and we can like remove card from it, like remove card, but then we need to put in a card to remove, which I guess could be this, but that might be an issue. Hold on, when we click on it, we add that card back to the player. So yeah, now then we do remove it from this. I think that gave me issues when I did it in C++, but we'll see. Why does this need to remove a card from the player? The actual hell's going on here, hold on. We add a card to the player inventory. That is the card that we just clicked on, and we remove. This doesn't make any goddamn sense, I don't think. So that might have also been part of the issue. Okay, I think this part of the code should now be error-free. Yeah, we've got some errors up here. But that is because we trying to add a card that doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, we probably, for display case, I think it makes more sense to like make all of this into a function in display case as well. So maybe we'll do that in a moment, because this is kind of obnoxious to do every time, do 3 nodes. And then in display case, we set that card slot to being empty. And we kind of do that twice for some reason. Oh, it's because the WBP card also... Yeah, no, that works, that's fine. Yeah, so we remove card from this. And then the card to remove is the card that's inside it already. So that should be this. And we just set that to an empty card then. Okay, I think everything should work now. But I've said that a million times in the past when I didn't. So at least, again, our 1x1 inventory thing works. So crashes. Yeah, I think this is array size 0. Oh. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. We're trying to sample an index that doesn't exist yet. So we also need to, like, if Inventory cards. 0. That by itself is not a valid bool. So inventory cards dot length. Is it num? It's called num. Is greater than 0. Return null pointer. Look, I know that if you only have one line in an if statement, you don't need the brackets, but just for readability, I hate not including the brackets. Okay, we put that in there, and then else. I guess we don't technically need the else, but again, I like it for sake of readability. So else we return always false. Because if this is not greater than 0, it has at least 1 in it, then we do this. But if it is 0 or less than 0, but an array can't have less than 0, it's unsigned, it just doesn't have anything in it. So that should do the trick. Let's try again. So how's everybody doing today? While I lose my mind and make, again, much less progress than I maybe initially wanted. But, you know, hey, somebody's playing Kingdom Hearts. Good. We like Kingdom Hearts. Tired. Tell me about it, man. Tell me about it. At least tired from good stuff, or tired from just life and life sucking? Okay. That works? Kind of. Not really. Okay. There's still something going a little fucky with this being set directly somewhere. And that is because we set this WBP card directly to the thing that we just clicked on, I think. So we should be setting this, so set card slots. We didn't need to remove. We didn't need to remove that. We just needed to remove this. We just need to set that to... No, we don't need to set that. What we need to do is we need to add. We did need to remove that node. Add card. Oh, but this doesn't have... Ooh. Okay. No, we do need to. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how I should do this. So, we need to set the WBP card at the end of all this to our display case. This entire thing. Which again, I'm doing this like 5 different times in 5 different places with this node setup. I really should just make a C++ function for this. But now it should actually display the proper thing. So let's see if it does. Take a couple of cards. We probably should like add a right-click function to these as well, where if you right-click it does move the entire stack, but that then probably fucks with this inventory, so I don't really want to do that. But so, okay, so now this doesn't do anything, but if I click on this, this should become 2, and this should go back to 3. Almost. It removes the card from there, but it doesn't then swap the cards around. We're getting close. We are getting close. BS with life. Yeah, I feel you there. Same here. Just planning stuff at the moment. I like the idea of you just planning stuff with your mom as well. Is it remembering the old one? No, I think I just have some operations in the wrong order, maybe. Okay, so what we do is when it already... Well, I'll just go through this logically, right? So what happens? When there's already a card in here, so has card is true, and that card is equal to the card that we're trying to put in, we don't do anything. If it is not, we do add card to there. And then we... So yeah, we're supposed to add that to the player. Oh! Yeah, so this is what went wrong. We're adding the card to the player inventory. We're removing the card that existed in there, but we're never actually putting in the card in the new inventory. So we just need to add card. And the card that we're going to be adding will then be... That's a very good question. Which will it be? I think the thing that we just clicked on... So now it should actually swap the cards around as well. Or technically it doesn't swap anything, it just deletes one and recreates one of the exact same. But so I just created a card duplication glitch, which is nice. How did I do that? So we add the card back into the inventory, then we remove the card from the display case. And then I want to add the card that I just clicked on. So how does that do what? How does that duplicate cards? No, it does subtract it. Oh, it doesn't subtract it from the player inventory, does it? Yeah, you're right. It doesn't subtract it from the player inventory. The player also needs to have something subtracted from it. You are right. So we subtract the thing that we just clicked on from the player inventory as well. And that should do the trick. So we have the player inventory component. I really like... Maybe even on stream. I don't want to spend time on stream for this, but I need to fix up this noodle mess because it's unreadable. No, I think that it is the issue that it just doesn't remove it from the player inventory. I think you are right there. You might have been referring to something else, but I think you were right about that. Yeah, see, so now... If I go back and forth between these... They should stay at the same amount. Yeah, so that is fixed now. And if I click on this again, nothing fucking happens. Okay, so our display cases work. Fantastic. And I didn't even need to re-code like my entire inventory system for once. So, that's neat. Cool. Very good progress. So now, I really do think that I probably should put in a function to do this in a display case. But that might be like a cleanup thing that I just do over the weekend in my own time. For now, I think what we should do is make sure we can also save the display case, because I don't think it's doing that. How are we going to do that? that's a good question. because they all need to be consistently the same, otherwise it's going to mix them up. So when we save and when we load, I can't just get all actors of class, because I don't think that is consistent in the order that it generates them in. That's actually like a good question whether or not it does, because if it does, that is very helpful. Unreal get all actors of class always same order. Is get actors of all class reliable in the order? You can add actor tags to camera settings. The node does not get the actors in the same order from run to run. If you need something specific, then you need to fill out a list specifically with that item manually. Okay, so that's how we're going to do things. We're going to make a display case manager object, I guess, which is just going to have an array that we can sample, so that it's always going to be in the same order. And we do need to make that in C++, so let's do that. That's just the easiest way to do this, I think. Can just make an actor. Display case manager. Capital M, pretty please. Let's create that class. And all that it needs really is to put its header file over there, pretty please. It doesn't even need a tick function, so we can set tick to false. Frankly, it doesn't even need to have a begin play. All that it needs is to have a public uProperty blueprint read write, and let's add it anywhere, and that will be a T array of type a display case, which can just be forward declared. That's fine. Display cases. And that's really all that we need there, I think, to be honest with you. Display case pointer. Good point. And that's all we need. Because all that this needs to do is our game mode just needs to find this one manager. We'll just use get actor by class. We're only going to have one. And just get the display cases out of that. And this is going to be consistently in the same order because it's a T array. So that should and will be fine. And then we'll probably make a blueprint editor function that just gets all actors of class. Which probably means that we actually we can do that a little bit more cleverly. I was going to say that probably means that when we add something and we run that function again, things are not in the same order anymore. It doesn't actually matter because it's just for development purposes, of course. So players aren't actually going to be interfacing with that, because that I don't think those editor functions even get. Do they get compiled at all? Actually, I think they might have just be ignored in compile and compilation, like when you build. Not entirely sure about that though. So yeah, let's make a blueprint class of this. So this will be display case manager, BP display case manager, and we'll make a function here. Get display cases. set display cases, and then we can get all actors of class. Display case. And what do you know? It's just as easy as that. And then we can make this function itself a call in editor function, which, and this is the wonderful part, if we just like put this down, just gonna put this, actually let's just put it at 0, 0, 0. So when we press that button now, get display cases, it gets a display case. And if I like copy this over a couple of times, like this, right, and I go back to my display case manager, I press this, it has all the display cases. And again, this is now an array that has its proper ordering, meaning that when we iterate through this for saving and loading, it's always going to be saving and loading these in the same order. Now that means that if I wanted to have a mechanic for whatever fucking reason where players can put in their own display case, like spawn them in, of course this isn't going to work, but I don't want a mechanic like that, so it doesn't matter. Isn't that just wonderful? And just to show how this will work in the actual gameplay, like I have some cards, I go here, I say, hey, I want to sell this card in this display case. And then I go to the next display case, I want to sell this card here. But I've got 3 of these cards, so I need to go to the next display case and put one in there as well. And then the next one I need to put one in there as well. And now I'm selling that card in these 3 different display cases, except that they don't get saved. Okay. Something's a little weird there. I think that might just be a display thing. Hold on. Because when we like run event construct, what we do is we do this, then this. WBP card doesn't get set to anything, I don't think. So that is the issue. So if we do BP display case, display case is self. That makes sense. We need to set our WBP card to something though, which needs to happen like as the very first thing here. Let's like set card slot, and wouldn't you know it, we're gonna do it with this because we haven't abused this ugly line of nodes at all yet. Again, should just be a function, but I think now that we do that, it should also remember. Oh, it already remembers, but it should also like display that it remembers what card we put in. So we put in a slime card on this, we close, we reopen, slime card's fucking gone. Except when I press this, slime card very much not gone, is it? Well, yeah, we'll again take care of that at some point. Matter of fact, I think at this point we are set up to remove the default values in this. So I think we have like a default value here. So we just disconnect that. Right. Take a couple of cards out. Yeah, so now it just has the default values, and it does let me add those. I guess that means that... Well, so if is valid, like none of this should run, but none of that does run, does it? We need, yeah, so... yeah, we need to set up something for like the default value here. So... let's set that up real quick, just so that I have my stuff all set up properly. So we effectively just need to like copy all this over. And then copy this over as well. It's going to be a little messy here in a moment, but we'll make it work. So we just set the card text and card name to nothing. The card asset image, the texture will just set to like gray. And I think now, when it is no card in there, it should be an empty frame with just a gray image. It's not exactly a gray image, is it? Oh, then I don't actually like go through and... yeah. We don't actually do any of this shit, I don't think. So we just end it there. So now it should be a gray slot. There we go. Still allows me to click on them. I suppose that might be due to... that's a very fucking good question. Why does it allow me to click on them? Like in a display case. This is the only place that this should be happening in. I guess what I actually probably want to do is in our display case widgets, which is here. I guess we don't want to be adding... we don't want to do this if our WPP card get card slots split structure pin. Like we just put in an is valid. It's not what I want to do. Is valid. The macro, please. And we just check whether or not the card asset is valid, and only if it is valid we're gonna add it to the list of stuff that we can click on. So now the click function should also no longer work on empty cards. There we go. But now if we go back here, because it redraws the entire inventory, I think, yeah, it's not clickable either. That still doesn't remember. So that's the thing that we need to look into. So yeah, when I remove and re-add the inventory, it does add itself back in. So I think every time I click on the, at least on the display case card, what I also need to do is at the very end of this, I need to just like redraw. Instead of redraw card, what we might just want to do actually is just redraw inventory. That makes more sense to me then. So custom event redraw inventory, which will just do literally everything the exact same. So that's at the end of all this. We just redraw inventory. At which point, I think we can just kind of like get rid of this whole mess as well. And just say, hey, at the end of both of these, also just redraw inventory. Because that redraws everything, I think. Right? I might need to clear some stuff. We'll see in a moment. Redraw inventory. This might start creating like duplicate cards in my player inventory is what I'm thinking, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Which is right about now actually. So I can't click on this, that doesn't do anything. When I click on this, it duplicates all my cards in my inventory. Yeah, so I kind of figured something like that might happen. Yeah, so I don't need to do the redraw card thing anymore. To begin with. But I do want to, like, we have an array somewhere in here. That needs to be cleared. And that array is, I think, the player inventory. Can we find references? Set inventory. So yeah, we have an inventory component here. What we need to do, all that we need to do for this actually is this thing, which is the scroll box or the rep box inside of the scroll box or whatever. We need to, so rep box 1, we just need to clear that, I think. So if we redraw somewhere in here, yeah. Get rep box 1 and then just clear all children. Like remove child? No, I think it's clear children. That should clear the entire inventory and redraw the exact same thing again. Is that a little wasteful? I don't care. it might be. But I'll make this work a little bit more smoothly, I think. So again, this doesn't work. Okay. So at least it doesn't duplicate my cards anymore. That part works. I don't know why this doesn't work. But we're going to figure it out. So stick with me here for a moment. So why doesn't... I guess we actually do want a redraw card, but we just do that in redraw inventory. So we put that in here and we redraw card in that. I think we might have it. Which still won't remember the card when I close out and come back into it, but at this point, like one step at a time, right? So yeah, now it's at least displaying the cards properly again. But now when I close out of it and I open it again, it doesn't. And that is because the WBP card or the... yeah. It's not getting initialized with that value. So what it needs to do is... on initial constructs... it needs to set the card, but it does. Oh, but it does that after we redraw the card. So what we need to do, and this is, again, I'm going to clean this up at some point, once it works. But we need to set this first and then redraw. So this is the way we want to do it, I think. Let's see. There we go. Actually, that doesn't prove anything yet. There we go. It remembers now. It remembers the card we put in there. It actually properly displays everything. That is fantastic. So we can actually put our cards in the way you would want to. And then when we come back to them, they are still in there. And what's more is they should always also update their current market value in there. So that's good progress. We have that working now. Okay, so now I think the most important part is to also save this, which is actually not that difficult, I don't think, because all that we need to do is we have in our save object. Where is it? Game mode. We'll need to worry about that in a moment as well. Display case. I don't think we need Actor 2D anymore. Inventory component. Let's just close it for now. We had a save game header file open at some point here. Might have closed it because I wasn't working on it. Save game header file. There we go. The save game is also going to have a U property for a T array F card slots save data display case data. Actually, maybe we need to have that as its own separate struct. Yeah, we probably do. Because that also needs to include the price that we are putting in for it. And it doesn't actually need to include stack size either. So let's make that a struct for itself. U struct F card for sale save data. Which takes in it takes in a card slot save data. No. Card sale save data. We already had that. We already made that. We're just not using it. Okay. That is really funny. That is actually really funny. So yeah, we already have card sale save data. It's just a card slot plus a value. Fair. Then in our game mode, we want to also make a void save sales data. And I think, yeah, we don't really need to get any parameters in there. That just needs to do a thing. And then we need to void load sales data. And just implement both of these real quick. Close everything that we're not working on at the moment. Save game, we actually do want it. And load game, okay. Okay, so in begin play, somewhere in here we have a begin play, surely, there we go. We also want to set a value here for our T array of type a display case pointers display cases. Actually, no, it's not even a T array because that's why we made the manager. So this will be a display case manager for declare pointer display cases manager. And then on begin play, let's do that. Fucking don't care where. Display case manager equals. I have to imagine that that's a Gizmod thing. No gameplay. Oh, you gameplay statics. Gameplay statics, probably, right? Get actor of class. And then we get the actor of class a display case manager. And then we probably, I assume, what does that need for arguments? Hello? Yeah, we can cast that at the moment, that's not a problem. Matter of fact, let's just do that as a style cast right now. This will be like as display case manager. It's gonna yell at me about using C style, but I don't care. It's the easiest way to do it right now. Okay, so we just put in this as a word context object, and then we have the T subclass of actor class. So that would then be this, right? Does it need to be a U class? Probably needs to be a U class. T subclass of display case manager, display case manager class, and that will be a U property. We'll just set that in the editor, that's fine. Edit defaults only. Cannot convert type to parameter a actor. Is that better? No, that's not better, is it? Okay, we'll just cast to display case manager like this. Is that gonna make you stop screaming at me? What do you mean type is incomplete? What the actual hell are you talking about? Okay, hold on. Let's just see what ChatGPT makes of this, just because I can't be fucking asked. I want to fill this variable with a pointer to a get actor of class in Unreal Engine C++. Okay, so what this does is it just gets this one static class, which is actually probably better to do that way. I don't know why that has a semicolon in the middle of it. don't even know what the hell is any of this. That needs to be a display case manager. Why? Oh, that makes sense. Like type is incomplete. Like, do I not have the? I could have sworn that this should. Oh yeah, so maybe it actually doesn't have that include. Hold on. Display case manager. Oh yeah, that solves the issue, I think. Hold on, where are we? There we are. So I don't need to do this. Saves me a bit of headache. This is... yeah, so that should be fine. Yeah, I think that pretty much seals the deal. So then in save sales data, we have our save object, which is called something, like we gave it a name surely. Right, we have... surely we have our save objects in our game mode? Question mark? Maybe? Am I just blind? It makes it in the function itself. Does it do that for the save game as well? Okay, sure. That's oh yeah, that's why all of these take in an argument for a save game instance. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, let's put those in there and then wherever that one ended up. Player inventory, chest inventory, update prices. I don't think I implemented this one, maybe? Sure. We'll get back to that. Save sales data into save game instance. And then we also load sales data into, don't do extra brackets, that's good for nothing, into save game instance, so that's good. And then somewhere in here we have the sales data. Okay. So we have our save game instance. We're working on this, right? And from that we will get our display case data. Dot add. This is F safeguard data. Okay, so we want to put that into a for each loop, and that for each loop is going to take in our display case manager, and from that the display cases. But that's not how a for each loop is written. So that is for each a display case in that we do a loop. That should be a pointer. And then we add, or rather we make first, so F sale card save data. No, it is a F card sale save data. No, it is, yeah. So sale data, and then we say sale data dot card slots equals our display case dot, not dot actually, inventory components, cards 0, And that itself is a card slot, I believe. Yes. F card slot save data. Oh, that's not ideal. I guess maybe we don't need that to be card slot save data. We can just go back into our save game. Like, why do we need that to be card slot save data specifically? Oh, because it's an asset path. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that does need to be a thing, doesn't it? So how do we do that for all this? We have the cards lists. Yeah, I still need to look into those 500 animations and that sample project that Epic released. It looks really, really cool. I haven't had the time to look into it yet. So this is so for assets we do a card save data. So card save data is just the float, the amount, and the asset path. Card slot save data is the asset path and the rarity. So that is actually all that I need, right? So we don't need to do any of this. We just need to check, hey, save player inventory. What we do is card slot save data. Save data is... Yeah, so we kind of just copy this over... Which is not what we should be doing, I know, but I'm gonna do it anyway, because fuck you. So we have sale data dots maybe this nesting of different structs isn't the best idea I ever had. I didn't really like it. It's taking a few steps more to match the selected climb animation instead of jumping when I push the button. I mean, I can see that. Like, that's one of my problems with blending animation in general, is that if you blend animations, inherently, they're going to be less responsive. I think, specifically for video games, having animations like cutting from one animation to the other, or having like very short blend animations to where it feels like things are cutting, sometimes is fine, and even preferable, because it feels more responsive that way. So I fully get that point. Yeah, I probably agree with that. Okay, so yeah, we have our sale data, right? And our sale data has card slot save data. Card slot save data has an asset path. So that's, we should just say dot card slot dot asset path. And then we check our display case. Oh, hold on, no, that's display case singular. Inventory components. Yeah, it's this. Yeah, I don't love that. But this should work, so maybe I do love it. I don't fucking know. This definitely needs to go. And then we add this sale data to it. Okay, then save data rarity is kind of so sale data card slots dot rarity is only one dot is equal to like all this bullshit dot rarity without extra C in there. Which again, this should probably just be a function in and of itself, but hey. But the animations are cool. Yeah, no, if nothing else, just 500 high quality locomotion animations to use is going to make a lot of Unreal Engine games look more the same than they already do. But I'm going to use them probably, not in my current game, but in the future I'm sure to use at least some of them. Because I'm shit at animating. So yeah, I think this is all that needs to do, to be honest with you. And then in the load version of that function, we just get our save game instance display data, and we do it the other way around. So we put in a for loop. So that is for f card sale save data in that array. All we do is we get our display manager display cases. I guess we want to empty those. That's a very good point. And then for all of them, we're just going to add one thing, right? So we don't need another for loop in there. So we just need to get that save data. So then we just need to add. Actually, display cases dot. This will get a pointer to the display case. So dot inventory. Right. Oh, that's why. Inventory. What the hell? Display case manager display cases. Why does this thing suddenly not have like anything going on for it? This does have a definition for display case itself, right? Yes, it does. Oh, actually, this probably is not what we want to do at all. Yeah, that's not what we want to do at all. We want to go through our save data, and then in our display cases. Oh, that's what we want to do. Making it into kind of a normal for loop in the end now. But we'll just do it like this. There we go. Inventory component. Add card. And that card needs to be a F card slot. So we'll make that F card slots. Card to add. And then we'll need to make the card to add dot card assets equal, and there we can just load, right? So ucard asset assets, whatever. And I think we can kind of copy over this entire thing, to be honest with you. Maybe just copy over this first bit. We'll take this one step at a time. So that we'll be able to cast and whatever, new save data asset path. Okay. Save data dot another thing. Card slot dot asset path. There we go. And then the card rarity will be so card to add dots card rarity. This is really like messily programmed at this point. But that should just be save data. We need to dereference that. Why is that being dereferenced? Sure. Card slot dot rarity. And then our card to add dot we'll just set the value. I don't think we actually we'll implement the value stuff later. I don't think we need to deref this. I don't know what the hell's going on with any of that. Yeah, no, that's fine. And then this is might not be initialized. Sure, we'll set that to 0 by default. Okay, I feel like I'm probably making some mistakes here because I'm just copying over code without looking too much into it. And this entire, like, code is pretty bad. But then we got back into the thing. Like, if it works, it's not that bad, right? But this should now allow me to... Let's just remove this for now. This should now allow me to, for instance, say, hey, I want to like take these and put one of these in there and put one of these in there. And then if I, in theory, if I save, my engine crashes. Fantastic! Why? Save sales data. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, but why? In display cases, so... But why? Because this definitely should just have a value, right? And display cases is also... Let's open up this header file. That is a U property, so that shouldn't be getting wiped without me explicitly wiping anything. We're doing the same fucking thing again, aren't we? We're trying to sample something where it might not exist. So we very simply just put in a... That does make sense. Cards dot num is greater than 0. Then we set these values, and otherwise we just add an empty data slot. For the loading, I don't think that matters, because it'll just... Yeah, it'll do it the other way around, so it doesn't actually like need to sample anything from an array that might not exist. Defensive programming, motherfucker! Okay, so before we actually do anything at all, does this still crash? No, it does not. That is a really good sign. Let's put a couple of these in. Now. Does it crash now? No, it does not. When we go in here, is empty. Load game. Doesn't crash anything. Moment of truth. Saves the display cases. Does it save them all in the correct order and the correct location? It fucking does. Okay, so that works. We've got that working as well. Holy hell. That's a good bit of progress. Let's get the values that we're trying to sell them at as well. Because now that we're working with this anyway, I think we should put that on the display case, because we're going to need to save that in C++. So display case has a U property blueprint read write for floats value sales value, let's call it. I will implement that in a moment. But then in our game mode here with saving, we can simply add that to our stuff. So that is our sales data dot value is equal to our display case sales value. And it really should be as easy as that, because now in the load sales data, we just say, hey, cool shit. All this will just be equal to our save data dot value. And that's as easy as adding the value. Like, literally, that is all there is to it, I think. Like, some things are just easy. Some things are just straightforward. Which is really cool and really good. But now we need to implement a value system in, like, what do we want to sell this for in the display case as well. Which means that next time we're going to be probably, like, starting on the AI for the buyers, which kind of scares me. But we'll take that into account. So, like, can we input like a text field? Oh, that's a good question. Can we get can we get a text field that is limited to only inputting numbers? Unreal text field limit to numbers. Never really had to look into that. There's nothing out of the box in Epic as far as I know. You can convert the text inputs and the event to string and check is numeric on the string. If true, then store the value in the text box. If not, Okay. So let's put in the text box here for the value. And then we can make that a variable, and that has a thing that we can subscribe to, I think. So if we just like editable text box on text committed, or on text change it even, we could do. Let's add another pin here because this wasn't messy enough as is. We'll just pull that down here, I guess. Is what do they say here? String. So we can convert to a string. And then we can check is numeric. Oh, that's nice. So if it is not numeric, we set it to like set text to blank. And if it is numeric, we get our display case set value to like, do we have like a get character as number? So that's not gonna work either. Float, string to float, converts a string to a double float. I guess it actually could be an integer. Probably should be an integer. Oh well. String to integer. Oh no, that actually needs to go in there. And then we can also, when this is first built, set the text. And that will be get sales, or like, no, wrong thing. Get sales value to text with non-fractional digits. Let's see what this does. So if we put something else in, sets it to nothing. If we put 12 in, for instance, remains at 12. And it doesn't remember that, because of course it doesn't. But it should. Right? Because when we change this, we set that value. I guess that means that this value isn't getting, like, set properly. Which kind of makes sense. Probably just sets it to 0. Like 32, right? That doesn't actually... But it does? Yeah. Oh, hold on. No, that makes sense. When it's true, we need to set the value. I'm starting to slow down a little bit. I've been live for 2.5 hours in my defense. So now if I set this to like 50, right? That works. If I open it up again, it's still at 50. Matter of fact, if I now save, quit, restart and load, it should still be at 50. I mean, it's not. It's at like 2 trillion. 2.7 billion, maybe. So that's not quite it. But that is an issue with the saving and loading, I'm fairly certain. So let's try if I put a card into it and I set the value instead to, let's do 60 in this case. Double check, yes. I didn't save, I'm an idiot. So we set the value to 50. I wonder if I just like close out. It does remember. Okay, I was kind of curious whether or not it would. So I save this, close out, and reload this. Did that remember it? That does remember it. Now the rest of this will just be, they'll all be 50. Why are they all 50? Why is this one 50 as a matter of fact? Because I'm pretty sure that I set this to 60. Maybe I set it to 50. Maybe the last attempt was 60. Oh, yeah, no. I accidentally saved over the last file as well because I'm an idiot. Let's put this back in. 60. Again, that's 60. This is 0, right? Yes, this is 0. Okay, so save. Load. That is 60, and it's now going to set everything to 60. Because when it runs into something that it doesn't have a value for, it just relies on the last value that it had. For some fucking reason. It's probably because it saved them that way. Okay, so if we just put in a else real quick and we just set the value for this to 0. I think that will maybe fix that. And once we have this figured out, I'm gonna probably call it a day for now. Hopefully this time there won't be a week of me not having internet consistently so that I can't stream. And I'll be back on Tuesday. But with this, the saving and loading system will properly be finished. Like, I don't think I need to save or load any more data for this game. From here on out, it's just some visuals, actually like building the map and building the AI. Which, when you say it like that, sounds like a trivial task, but there's still like a lot of work to be done. Also, for like the one person hanging out on Twitch, I do want to warn you. My restream license is going to like end at some point due to, long story, talked about it a little bit in Discord today. Why are you not... Oh, you did restart, okay. Which means that I'm probably not going to be streaming to Twitch anymore for a little while. YouTube streams will still keep going, but like I was streaming to Twitch as like a courtesy anyway. But like dual streaming on my own, like just the bandwidth, it's not stable. So that's why I got Restream to begin with. But now, long story short, they just don't support PayPal. And I would like to pay them with PayPal, but they won't let me. So if I just put this in here and say I want to sell this for 100 gold, and I save and I load, this will be sold for 100. That's good. And this will be at 0. Okay, so we're good. This works. I'm not entirely sure why it works the way it did. I guess it just keeps that last value somewhere in memory and it samples that again. Logically, I'm not sure why that happens. Because the moment we get to this bracket, everything in here should be discarded and then recreated when we start again in the for loop. So the fact that that information somehow sticks around is a little bit weird. I guess what happens is when we initialize a new one, the default value for the float remains the same as what we lost at the last instance too. But that doesn't make any fucking sense. I don't know. We fixed it. That's the most important part. So, yeah, that's going to be it for today. Next week we'll be back, and again, we'll probably start with some of the AI stuff, which, for the most part right now, is just going to be, hey, walk toward the case and make a decision whether or not you want to buy it. And that's probably going to be enough to fill a stream, knowing me. So thanks everybody for hanging out, for chatting, for not forgetting I exist after a week, as the internet tends to do. This time, let's try to not disappear for a week. I will see you later, and it's been a good one. Thanks.